Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Our top story: in New York State Tuesday, the FBI arrests a former top aide to Governor Kathy Hochul. The aide was charged with acting as an agent for China. A Chinese influence operation ramps up before the U.S. election, mocking politicians and fueling division online. A school bus in eastern China crashes into a crowd, killing at least 11 people, including 5 students. And a gold award winner of NTD's International Traditional Martial Arts Competition talks about Kung Fu and the changes he experienced while training in traditional martial art. In New York State on Tuesday, the FBI arrested a former top aide to Governor Kathy Hochul. Linda Sun was charged with acting to advance the interests of China. According to the indictment, Sun failed to register as a foreign agent, committed visa fraud, and was involved in a money laundering conspiracy.
Linda Sun was arrested along with her husband at their Long Island home on Tuesday. She previously held multiple positions in the New York State government, even working as an aide to former Governor Andrew Cuomo. According to the indictment, Sun faces 10 criminal counts, including money laundering, alien smuggling, and violating the Foreign Agents Registrations Act. In one instance, court documents show Sun used her position to derail communications between Taiwan and New York State officials. Prosecutors say in exchange for helping to advance Beijing's agenda, the Chinese regime facilitated millions of dollars in transactions for Sun's husband, who had business activities in China. The couple later used those funds to purchase a $4 million home on Long Island. The FBI raided the property in July. Sun and her husband Chris Hu pleaded not guilty at a federal court in Brooklyn this afternoon and will be released on bond. Federal authorities have long warned about the Chinese Communist Party's influence in Washington, D.C. and within state governments.
According to new research from the intelligence company Graphica, a Chinese social media influence operation is allegedly impersonating U.S. voters. The campaign is mocking politicians and spreading divisive messages ahead of the November 5th presidential election. NTD's Christina Corona tells us more.
The operation, known as Spamouflage or Dragon Bridge, is linked to the Chinese state and has been active since 2017, mixing spam with targeted propaganda. It uses thousands of accounts across over 50 websites and social media platforms, wrapping up activity as the election nears.
Intelligence firm Graphica says the influence campaign impersonated American anti-war activists, using multiple accounts to post memes criticizing both Trump and Biden, labeling Trump a fraud and Biden a coward. The campaign does not appear to favor Democrats or Republicans. It aims to amplify existing criticisms of American society and government. Graphica identified 15 Spamouflage accounts on X and 1 on TikTok. The TikTok account Harlan Report was one of the group's top assets. One of its July videos got 1.5 million views. The video allegedly mocked a Biden press conference at NATO's 75th anniversary summit, where he stumbled over a speech. Former Department of Justice Cybersecurity Policy Director Colonel John Mills says the Chinese regime is using a calculated approach.
One is just to inflame existing tensions on existing voters. 2 is also to influence the outcome of the election. I think clearly they would probably prefer a Harris win over a Trump win. So they are also going to be promoting that.
Mills says these operations use specific techniques to exploit social divisions.
It's existing perceptions. It's using positive and negative confirmations of those positions to amplify pre-existing as they divide up, as China divides up the target groups. You got to always divide up your audience.
Mills notes that in China, the concept of truth is highly fluid and can be shaped to fit any narrative.
They don't care about truth. You're going to get a histrionic push of information that oftentimes has nothing to do with reality or truth.
However, China has denied interfering in the U.S. election, with a spokesperson for its embassy in Washington stating China has no intention and will not interfere in the U.S. election. And we hope that the U.S. side will not make an issue of China in the election. Facebook has since described this campaign as the largest known cross-platform covert influence operation in the world.
Related YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok accounts have since been suspended as part of ongoing enforcement actions, according to their spokespersons. X did not respond to a request for comment as of Tuesday afternoon. Reporting from the city of Almani, Christina Corona, NTD News.
Next, we're diving into the growing concerns surrounding Americans' data security. What role does the U.S.-China tech lobby play in shaping American legislation? And who's really pulling the strings? To discuss, we sat down with Rex Lee, cybersecurity advisor at MySmart Privacy. Rex Lee, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you back on the show.
Thank you for having me on the show, Tiffany.
How concerned should we be about election interference happening on something like TikTok? How would that even work?
Well, this has been happening dating back to the elections of 2016. That's what Cambridge Facebook scandal was all about. It was about election interference, the use of brain hijacking technology to collect information about the end users, which was ultimately done by an app developer who developed an app, Alexa Kogan, for Facebook, and collected data on over 300 million users worldwide, 80 million of them in the United States. And then he packaged that and sold that to Cambridge Analytica, and political ads were developed and distributed based on these personal information that they had on these 80 million end users to influence them to vote for political or candidates running for office, senators, including the president. So this is how these people can utilize this data, which it then becomes a threat to the end user because they're being influenced to make a decision that they probably would not have been made had they not been influenced.
Talk to us about the U.S.-China tech lobby. Who's involved and how do we see that playing into what we're talking about here?
That's a great question because if you wonder why Trump has adopted TikTok, a former Trump advisor, David Urban, who was the head of American Continental Group, which is a law firm on K Street in Washington, D.C. His law firm represented ByteDance, and they're the chief lobbyist for ByteDance. David Urban at one time was even employed by ByteDance as a senior executive in North America. He holds a lot of influence in Washington. So his lobbying efforts have also helped stop the TikTok ban, which is ironic because on one hand, we're told that these apps and platforms and AI integrated products developed in adversarial countries like China and Russia are a threat. Yet at the same time, these companies like ByteDance can hire K Street law firms to lobby for them in Washington, D.C.
Rex Lee, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Turning our attention now to Taiwan, the island's defense ministry on Tuesday detected a Chinese rocket traveling through its Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ. An ADIZ is not the same as a country's airspace. It's an extension of the airspace, which a country monitors for foreign aircraft. The rocket was carrying a Chinese satellite. Officials said it posed no threat to the region's security. Additionally, the island reported 19 Chinese aircraft and 8 vessels operating near the Taiwan Strait during the previous 24 hours. For decades, the Chinese Communist Party has considered Taiwan a breakaway territory and has vowed to take it by force if necessary. That's despite never having ruled the island. A school bus crashed on Tuesday into a crowd of students and parents in China's eastern Shandong province. Chinese state media reports at least 11 people are dead. And a warning, this report contains footage that some viewers may find disturbing.
Videos released on social media showed a bus surrounded by debris with people who were hit by the bus lying beneath or around it. Cries could be heard at the site. The local government said the school bus lost control and crashed into a group of students and their parents this morning. At least 6 parents and 5 students were killed. One of the witnesses said more than 30 people died. Due to the Chinese Communist Party's history of underreporting casualties from accidents, The real known number is not known. The driver has been detained and investigations are ongoing.
A mission to bring back an ancient culture that was almost lost. NTD's 8th International Traditional Martial Arts Competition wrapped up on Monday. How do traditional martial arts improve one's health and uplift one's character? NTD spoke with Gold Award winner Taiwan Liu about the changes he experienced while training in traditional martial arts.
A martial artist for 18 years, Taiwan Liu says the training discipline is very similar to forging a sword.
An old expression says that iron must be tempered 100 times to become steel. It's the same with martial arts. You have to keep practicing the same movement again and again. It's tiring, but you have to keep at it. Only then can you achieve true mastery.
Elevating in martial arts takes more than diligent practice, though. Liu says it's closely associated with one's self-improvement. A realization came after he hit a wall.
You just feel that you're not improving anymore, even though you're practicing every single day, but you're not moving up. No matter how much more practice you do, you're just stuck at the same level.
A memorable breakthrough came in 2019 when he searched inside during an interpersonal conflict.
I realized I was wrong in my attitude toward other people, and that I should let go of my ego. I should not treat other people that way. But before that realization, I always thought it was the other party's fault. Following this change, one day I was walking, and it suddenly occurred to me that I could do a movement differently, such as changing the spot where the movement gets its energy from and relaxing a certain part of my body. It was at that moment that I realized improving your mastery is directly linked to improving your inner state.
Still, pursuing martial arts is a testing process.
If you don't move forward in martial arts training, you would go backward. If you're lazy and stop practicing for a while, then you won't improve. To break through this realm, you have to start practicing again.
He thought about giving up when getting tired or seeing little improvement after a prolonged period of practice.
But I didn't give in to the thought. I would overcome it. I know this isn't what I want.
What kept him going? Liu said it's all the benefits and wisdom embedded in this ancient culture.
It's magical. For example, when we practice 站桩, meaning standing in one posture for a long time, it opens up the energy flow inside the body and leads to noticeable changes. You would feel very comfortable. You feel very light when you walk. Even your injuries are easier to heal.
He said unlike extreme sports, injuries are rare in traditional martial arts.
If you do it correctly, you won't get hurt. Instead, your body will become healthier and more comfortable. Your mood will also brighten up.
But this ancient culture is seeing a dramatic decline. After almost wiping out this tradition through political movements, the Chinese Communist Party is now compromising martial arts, removing the systematic training and moral principles behind it.
Contemporary martial arts is just a type of sport. It mixes and matches different schools inside martial arts. It's destroying traditional martial arts instead.
He noted severe injuries are common among those who practice contemporary martial arts. It's Liu's 5th time participating in NTD's martial arts competition. He said NTD's competitions are not just about giving out awards. Last year, the judge did not award a gold medal.
I'm very sorry that this happened. We never expected the result could have turned out like this. We have searched over all corners of the world to find a gold medalist, but to no avail. This brings tears to my eyes.
I think he wants us to keep improving. This competition isn't just about giving out awards. Contestants really have to keep improving their mastery in traditional martial arts and even surpass those before them.
It's also a wish Liu has for himself, that he can reach the level of Kung Fu masters in the past, or even better, and help keep this ancient culture on the brink of extinction from perishing. Juliet Song, NTD News.
Coming up, Russian President Vladimir Putin is visiting Mongolia, a country that's critical to a planned pipeline for transporting Russian gas to China. A shadowy fleet of dark tankers dodging Western sanctions. A recent crash exposes the ships used in China's illicit oil trade. A one-man protest at a Chinese college. A student in a Marxism class expresses his contempt for the Communist Party.
I am not a communist, I don't believe in communism, and I don't like the Communist Party.
More on that after the break here on China in Focus. Welcome back to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Russian President Vladimir Putin is in Mongolia for a 2-day state visit. He arrived Monday evening. Mongolia is a key link on the route of a planned pipeline that will transport Russian gas to China.
Ukrainian officials are criticizing Mongolia for not arresting Russian President Vladimir Putin. The International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Putin, who's visiting Mongolia for the first time in 5 years. He met the country's president today.
We see good perspectives as gas cooperation. The design documentation for the Soyuz-Vostok gas pipeline, which has the length of over 1,000 kilometers that will connect Russia, Mongolia, and China, was finalized.
For years, Russia has been in talk about building a pipeline to carry natural gas from Siberia to China via Mongolia. The project is part of Russia's strategy to compensate for the loss of gas sales in Europe since the start of the war. The ICC's arrest warrant obligates the court's member states to arrest and transfer Putin to The Hague for trial. Ukraine criticized Mongolia, which is a member state, for not doing that. Ukraine's foreign ministry says officials will work with allies to ensure Mongolia feels the consequences.
Thanks to the support of the Chinese Communist Party, Russia's economy has been able to stay afloat amid Western sanctions in recent years. Oil sales to China are among Russia's main sources of revenue. Similar deals are in place between China and Iran. How are these countries managing to get around Western sanctions on their oil? The key lies in a network of so-called dark tankers. They operate outside international regulations and transport sanctioned oil from Iran, Venezuela, and Russia. Last year, the UN's International Maritime Organization reported that there were up to 600 tankers involved in this shadow trade. And an investigation from the ship tracking journal Lloyd's List has identified about 100 dark tankers transporting sanctioned oil to China. In July, a tanker crash provided a glimpse into how these dark tankers managed to avoid detection. The Chinese tanker Series 1 crashed into another ship in the South China Sea. According to the Washington Post, the crash occurred because the tanker was broadcasting a fake location on ship locator channels. So the other ship didn't detect the risk of a collision until it was too late. China is the world's biggest importer of oil. It relies on the dark tanker network to maintain the influx of cheap crude. China's ally Russia is planning changes to its doctrine on the use of nuclear weapons. Russia's deputy foreign minister made the announcement on Sunday without revealing any details. Reuters reports that some hawks among Russia's military analysts have urged Russian President Vladimir Putin to lower the threshold for the use of nuclear weapons. The reason is to, quote, sober up the West. Russia's current nuclear doctrine was established in 2020. It says that Russia reserves the right to use nuclear weapons if it's subjected to a nuclear attack or a conventional attack that threatens its existence. The situation changed when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. Moscow accused the West of trying to use Ukraine to weaken Russia. The U.S. and its allies have denied this, saying they are supporting Ukraine to defend itself against Russian aggression. In the last 2 years, Putin has issued a series of statements the West views as nuclear threats. He has also announced the deployment of Russian nuclear weapons in neighboring Belarus. In June, Putin said Russia had no need to use nuclear weapons to secure victory against Ukraine. Russia has more nuclear weapons than any other country. Meanwhile, China and Russia have strengthened their economic and military ties. This past May, Putin and Chinese leader Xi Jinping issued a joint statement saying, quote, there can be no winners in a nuclear war and it should never be fought. Nonetheless, the Chinese regime is expected to increase its warhead count from around 500 to over 1,000 by the end of the decade. In a Hong Kong courtroom on Tuesday, defendants entered their final pleas during the second day of a landmark trial.
The last batch of 45 pro-democracy activists arrived in court and entered their final pleas for lighter sentences. They are accused of plotting to pressure the Hong Kong government into meeting the demands of the 2019 protests, including genuine universal suffrage for everyone in the city. The offense carries the penalty of up to life imprisonment under a sweeping new national security law imposed by Beijing on the financial hub in 2020. It's further eroded freedoms in the city. Newspapers have been raided, protesters banned, and dissent silenced.
A college student in Shanxi province, northwest China, protested in class. He complained that he is disgusted by the Communist Party and tired of Marxism courses. The video went viral on Chinese social media.
I am not a communist, I don't believe in communism, and I don't like the Communist Party.
The video showed many students on either their phones or chatting during a college Marxism class as a lone student protested. Once his remarks were publicized, Chinese internet users expressed concerns about the student's safety. One remarked this is his last chance for free speech. Marxism is a mandatory course for college students in China. Li Yuanhua, a former professor at Capital Normal University in China, said the course is designed to compel people to accept the regime's tyranny, regardless of their personal beliefs.
Many people are really fed up. Most just went along with it, but the student in this video expressed what many are too afraid to say.
Since the Chinese Communist Party came to power in 1949, it has indoctrinated people with political courses and propaganda promoting party ideology and loyalty at all educational levels. Last August, Xi Jinping's position on socialism was added to all textbooks, including in elementary schools. Last year, a Chinese student cried while complaining to her teacher that the political texts were pushing her to the brink of exhaustion. The messages went viral on the Chinese social media app WeChat.
I can't sleep all night just memorizing these texts. Aren't you supposed to care about mental health? Since taking your class in moral education, my mental well-being has been far from healthy.
Moral education is the official name of the classes that promote communist ideology. A China affairs analyst says that among Chinese college students today, some openly oppose the CCP, a few try to appease it, and most just stay silent.
The CCP, much like a grasshopper, can't endure the harshness of fall or winter. When the time comes, it will collapse, which is part of the natural course of events.
In recent years, many people have realized how the CCP has trapped them since childhood with its ideology and propaganda. They've also seen how they were deceived into joining the CCP and its affiliated groups, like the Young Pioneers and the Communist Youth League. Since 2004, hundreds of millions have denounced the CCP and its affiliates. To date, more than 435 million Chinese have renounced the Communist Party through the online Global Service Center for Quitting the CCP. Some use pseudonyms to avoid the regime's retaliation.
That's all for today's China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at chinainfocus@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. For round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.